Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to show you, well, yet another farm, but not any type of farm, a very popular one, that is a creeper farm. Some of you might have seen it, but recently I came across a very interesting creeper farm by GoldenHelmet 403. GoldenHelmet's farm is interesting in many regards, but its most defining characteristic is that it doesn't block spiders from spawning. Instead, it uses cactus to deal with them by killing them. His farm achieves great rates, thanks to the fact that all the spawning spots are spawnable. But it has one downside: it is quite small, due to the fact that spiders, while being killed, hog the cap. So it made me think, what if there was a way to keep very high spawnability while dealing with spiders fast enough that we could scale the design up to a full 15 layers farm. This is when I remembered farms of old, before I pioneered the use of buttons to block spiders from spawning back in 2019. Farms back then dealt with spiders in many different ways, but there was one that I remembered more vividly. It's the way that was used by Dr. Jan Cyan in his mob farms. What Dr. Jan Cyan would do back then was place golems outside of the spawning spots of the farm to lure spiders out and let them fall into oblivion. So today we're going to go back to these roots and do exactly what Dr. Jan Cyan did. We're going to deal with spiders by making them despawn with golems. But first, let's review a few things about spiders and golems. Spiders will willingly attack iron golems, or even snow golems for that matter, if and only if a certain set of conditions are met. The first of these conditions is that there is no light. So for example, if I spawn an iron golem here and there is no roof and it's full day on, the spider will not acknowledge the golem and won't try to attack it. But if I set the time to midnight, soon enough it should detect the golem and try to attack it. And here it just happened. See, jump? It's trying to attack the golem. Let's spawn another one. Soon it should detect the golem and attempt to attack it. Here it's trying to attack it. It's jumping to try and reach the platform. And here there is an interesting thing that we can notice. The spiders, as you can see, are jumping and trying to reach the golem, despite the fact they have no clear path towards it. Contrarily to most mobs, spiders do not need to be tricked into thinking there is a clear path between them and mobs in order to try and attack them. They will try to do that by jumping. And interestingly, this is true even if there is a huge gap, like here for example. There's a 6 blocks gap between this platform here and this platform here. But if I spawn a golem here, the spiders should detect it and attempt to attack it. jumping to their death in the process. And here the second one. Goodbye. Another condition that needs to be met is that there is a clear line of sight between the mob and the spider. So for example, if this platform was one block lower, spiders wouldn't be able to detect the golem because they wouldn't see its eyes. But here, this height is fine. This height here is also fine. So these are the requirements for spiders to detect golems and try and attack them. So now let's move on to the farm itself. And the build is actually going to be extremely simple, or deceptively simple. First, we're going to start off with a couple of platforms. So let me spawn a couple of platforms. Here we have two platforms of 8 by 17 blocks. Now what we're going to do is populate these platforms with scaffolding, like so. Skip a block, scaffolding, a line of scaffolding. Skip a block, another line of scaffolding. And we're going to do it for all the surface of both platforms. And here we're done. Both our platforms are populated. Now that's done, we're going to add open fence gates to the end of each of those scaffolding lanes. The concrete here is of course temporary, and we're going to remove it when we're done. And while I was placing the scaffolding blocks, I also reverted the time to noon because I was getting attacked by phantoms. Now that this is done, we have to place trapdoors. In order to know where to place our trapdoors, first we need to check where north is. North is here. Mobs spawn on the northwest corner of their block. So mobs that will spawn here will actually spawn around there. Which means on this side and on this side only, we're gonna need to have trapdoors here. Otherwise, mobs such as zombies or skeletons would be able to spawn. But actually no skeletons, because we are, and this is an important thing, we are in a ice spikes biome. The reason why we are in a ice spikes biome is that strays or skeletons don't attempt to spawn underground in ice spikes, making room for more spawn attempts to spiders and creepers. So now that this is done, we're gonna place rows of trapdoors in between each of these lanes, as is usually done in creeper farms. And here we're done. If you want to save a little bit on costs when making this, you can replace these 3 trapdoors on each lane with buttons. It would work the same, while being a little bit cheaper, like so. Now that this is done, we're gonna place a few guard rails to prevent our creepers from falling. And here on the west side here, we're gonna place our guard rails underneath the trapdoors. Remember to leave the corner here free from anything, any block, because fences on corners can prevent spawns on this block here. And on the other side here, we're gonna place our guard rails here on the top block. Here. Now let's just add a few fences here and here. And all we have left to do is to place our water source blocks. So let's do that right now. So here we're done. We've got our water. And before that we placed a roof here to prevent the water from freezing, because we're in ice spikes, and in ice spikes water would freeze. So now that we're done, this is basically what our 15 layers will look like. All we need to add now is the golems. So in order to add the golems, what you will need to do is count 5 blocks in from a corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 blocks in. Then 6 blocks out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 2 blocks down. Here. Then place fences like this. And spawn your first golem. In order to spawn the golem, you need to check that you are facing south. Here I'm facing north. Here I'm facing south. And if I spawn the golem facing south, it should fall right onto this block here, like it just did. Now do this on the other side as well. 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 and fences. Face south and spawn the golem. So this time it didn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work, but usually it does. So what you can do if it doesn't work is push the golem by hand onto the platform and quickly close it. So now we can do the second layer. Here our second layer is done. So now we're gonna add golems to this layer as well. And to add golems to this layer, what we're gonna do is we'll take the opposite side of the side we used for our first batch of golems and do the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. And again, spawn the golems face south and hope that it works. One, two, three, four, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Platform, fences, and golem. And this time it worked. Now of course we'd need to do that for 13 more layers to do the full thing. We're not going to do that right now. First I'm going to show you how to build the Trident Killer. So, in order to create the Trident Killer, I'll do it with glass, but you could of course do it with solid blocks. The first thing you need to do is come underneath your first platform here and create a 4-block tall wall. Like this. Now we have to make a floor which will be 3 wide and will have magma as the last block. Here, like so. Now let's complete these fences here. And here. And we can now place a row of blocks here, 1 block above the magma in front of it. Now that is done, let's place our water source blocks, but first let's place a couple of fences here and here. So for the water source, here in each corner, and then 1 for the last block in the middle. This creates streams that go to this block here, the middle block here, and this block here. For each of these blocks, place an upwards facing piston and complete the wall here with your block of choice. Now let's close this off here and here, and this is almost done. Underneath each piston, place a button and a block in front of the button. Then we're gonna have to count the number of blocks because we're gonna place fires, campfires, soul campfires underneath this. but we don't want that to create light onto our first platform, so we're gonna have to count. So this should be our light. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So our soul campfires should be here on this row. So it's one block underneath the magma. So let's do it right now. And to be safe, let's extend it one more block. It won't matter. Here, now let's place the campfires and the hoppers, as well as the chests. And if you don't want the campfires to smoke like this, what you can do is place a couple of buttons here and here. This should stop the smoke. Here, we're done. Now, the chests. Here, let's verify that it works. Okay, perfect. And now the chests. So one for this small version, we can, for this test version, we can just make it small like this. And this is done, almost. All we need to do is wire this to a couple of observers. And through tridents onto the back block here, and here. And this is what I call the bouncing Trident Killer. And with impaling 5 enchanted tridents, it kills creepers in one shot. Here, so now let's move to another world and see the completed farm in action. Here it is. As you can see, I removed the roof here and placed it way up there so we can see it from above. So as you can see, we have all our golems set. Mobs are spawning. Creepers are carried through the center chute. Spiders are attracted to the golems and fall down, or rather, should I say, jump down to their death. Let's wait for some to do it. And here's one. And the layout is exactly what I showed you earlier in the video, save for this part here where I used fences here instead of trapdoors to save on the costs a little bit, but it's not by much. The Trident Killer here is working and doing its job. And every once in a while, as you can see, there's a spider that actually ends up getting caught into the streams. That's why we have the magma blocks here. When that happens, they fall and die to the magma or to the Trident Killer if they try to climb. As for the rates, here we have 2 hours of rates. We have 1 chest per hour for each hour. So here we have 36, 7, 8, 9, 40, 1, 2, 42 stacks plus 36 gunpowder. And on this hour, 36, 7, 8, 9, 40, 1, 2, 42 again, and 36 again. So exactly the same number of gunpowder items. 42 stacks of gunpowder. You might have some dry runs, so let's say around 40 stacks of gunpowder per hour with this farm. So I guess that's it for today. I hope you liked this farm and will try to use it in your world, because it's quite compact for the result it has. If you have any comments or questions, of course feel free to hit the comment section and post there. I will be happy to reply. Thank you for watching, and there will be a world download in the description, as well as links to GoldenHelmet's channel and Dr. Jan Cyan's channel in the description as well. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.